Mostly they would be selling your pins, registers, stationery
Stationery,
items.
notebooks. Yeah.
When it comes to your academic environment, it's one of the most neglected departments, I would say. So academic publishing is anyway in India is on a very shaky ground. Getting that product out in the market and selling it, it's completely different ballgame.
Yeah. Welcome to the Book People. I'm Aishwarya, a writer, book editor, podcast producer, and the head of originals at Bound. In this path breaking podcast, I demystify the publishing and creative industries and uncover the biggest opportunities and challenges for writers in India today. Today, we're diving into the world of textbooks and academic publishing with Amit Kumar. So, his experience spans multiple academic publishers. He currently works with Taylor and Francis, where he's the senior commissioning editor, but previously he has worked at Oxford University Press, Pearson, McGraw-Hill, Sage, and many more publishers. And he has worked across different roles. So he has done sales, he has done marketing, and entered editorial. And I want to find out about every aspect of academic publishing and textbooks, from how he performed in these different roles, what they actually included, and what does the world of academic publishing actually look like. So let's tune in. Thank you so much, Amit, for coming on the Book People.
My pleasure, Aishwarya.
Yeah, I'm very excited to talk to you because, academic publishing is something that we haven't covered so far. And I really want to go into, the entire process from sort of editorial to even distribution and marketing, what exactly goes into academic publishing and what goes into making, academic books or even textbooks or even, research papers and things like that. And you are really the perfect person to talk to because you've worked with so many like top academic publishers in India. You worked with Oxford University Press, Pearson, McGraw-Hill, Sage, now Taylor and Francis. So my first question for you is, why academic publishing? Was it intentional for you to get into academic publishing, or is it just something that happened and then it kind of stuck in your journey?
See, when I started out, I wasn't aware of this academic trade or anything. I mean, different your versions of publishing. So only after spending few years, I really came to know, or rather few months, because I started my career with sales and I
Yeah.
joined Orient Longman, now known as Orient Black Swan, and they publish all kinds of books, right from school books to academic, your trade, and everything. So there was no distinction as such in there. So we, at that point of time in 99 or early 2000, everyone used to do everything.
Mm.
And my career started, as I told you, I was started with sales. So for me, it was uh, in terms of when going out in the field to sell the book, there it came to me gradually that, yeah, this book needs to go to institution, this book needs to go to the certain kind of bookshops, not that one, not that those based in like any university bookshop, because they are more uh, primarily are intended for your academic publishing. So this is a trade book, this should go to this distributor. So yeah, it came out gradually. But
So
yes,
a
there is a
division almost based on audience, like who is the
exactly.
audience for the book would define whether this goes into a bookstore, whether this goes into like a school and then becomes a textbook.
Yeah, school books are completely different. So when with in rest of the conversation, when we discuss about books or textbooks, it will be
Yeah.
higher education textbooks, right? So yeah, exactly. It's the readership and also the content, because the readership is defined by the content that the book carries. As I told you, that initially there was, even within the organization, there was no distinction between how we worked with, apart from the editorial setup, which they were different setups, different verticals for your school, for your academic, for your trade. But when it came to sales during those days,
Hmm.
there was no distinction as such. So we were doing
Right.
everything, right? So yeah, after a while, within the organization itself, there was certain kind of restructuring where it was decided that the school textbooks or educational publishing is going to be separated out of the rest of the publishing, which they called at that time higher education publishing, and it included everything. So then after a year, I got into your higher education publishing. So I left schools, and after that, um, I'm not sure if it was intentional or not, but it happened. So after it happened, I stuck to that field, higher education. I never got into your educational or school publishing.
Okay. And I was actually also curious about what you mentioned. You started with sales. So you've also had that very interesting journey from, like a sales, marketing, growth role to, a like editorial role. And then now, becoming the senior commissioning editor. So how did that transition happen?
My first organization into sales was intentional. I got into OBS and started selling everything. And after the company decided to restructure its product portfolio into your two distinct setups, two distinct verticals. One was school education, and rest of the publishing was, they named it or categorized it as your higher education vertical. So I got into higher education, and after that, it was pretty much intentional, as I told you before. So I stuck to that, and sales helped me a lot in building up my career later on, because it gave me enough understanding of the importance of getting the product sold, which is really important. So, I mean, we can see, or we always say that any specific product, not only books, anything is of highest quality, is the best one, but ultimately its success or failure is decided by how it's taken up by the your end user for whom it has been designed. So this understanding is much easier to imbibe or get when you are actually out in the field selling the product.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, especially what happens that um, as a product manager for any organization or any industry, we always say that whatever I have done, this is the best. But again, getting that product out in the market and selling it, it's completely different ballgame.
Yeah.
Right? This two different things.
I had a conversation recently with Leonard Fernandez, who has, who runs Cinnamon Teal and has the Dog Ears bookshop, the bookstore. And he was also talking about how sales is so important for books because, it's the people who are selling, whether at bookstores or in publishing houses, who really know what the reader wants and who have sort of that direct access to, exactly what is happening with the readers, what is happening with the distributors, rather than the publishers or the editors who are just trying to, in a sense, guess, right? Like, because there is that distance. So I think that's very interesting. So you were in sales, I think, till Pearson, and then at
No,
Sage you
till
moved
OUP.
till OUP.
Till OUP. So OBS or Orient Longman at that time, and OUP was my stint with sales. In Pearson, I moved on to marketing, and from there, it was even in terms of your product profile, it changed completely. I got into your higher education textbooks because up till now, OUP was again hardcore academic. OBS was mixed, but at Pearson, it was complete higher education textbooks, and it was marketing function. It was a marketing role, no direct sales, and no direct content acquisition as well, what we call commissioning.
Yeah.
So it was in between sales. I mean, in terms to put it or simplify it, it is a position which is very much in between your sales and marketing. Yeah, sales and
Sales and
your
editorial.
commissioning, sales and editorial.
Okay. And then you moved to editorial, right? With Sage,
With McGraw-Hill.
with McGraw.
McGraw-Hill was my first, I mean, full-fledged or pure commissioning role. I got into your acquisition profile. So there they were starting up your new vertical. It was there, but there was not much focus on that. Your humanities and social sciences publishing and textbooks. Obviously, McGraw-Hill also is very hardcore your textbook publishing organization.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting because, the reason I asked about that journey is for a lot of people who want to work in publishing, anyone who thinks Like most people who think they want to work in publishing, the only thing they're like is editor. That's the only role they know. So that is sort of the dream. Ke, oh, if I want to work in publishing, I want to become an editor because I like reading books or I like writing, right? And then for a lot of people, it's that thing of, okay, if I can, they have that thought process of, if I can get into publishing in a say marketing role, right, or in a PR role or in a different role, and then sort of transition slowly into an editorial role or into a commissioning role, actually, because I think commissioning is the dream role for anyone to have, which is that, acquisition, kind of identifying good content kind of position to be in. So I think in that sense, your journey was very interesting. But I really want to know, so because you have been doing this commissioning content acquisition role, I'm very curious about how acquisition is different in like academic publishing of a higher education, especially textbooks, versus a trade book acquisition.
There will be a simple answer to it. Your textbook publishing, when you talk about textbook publishing, it's very much confined within a certain framework or the syllabus, what we usually say. So textbook is tailored as per the syllabus of any university or any course curriculum. Right, and the author, they do have freedom to write the book, but again, I mean, they can't write, and we do not encourage to write anything extra beyond the syllabus for various reasons. Whereas when it comes to trade publishing, and I'm talking about your non-fiction trade publishing, which is very similar to academic publishing. There is a very thin line between your non-fiction trade and your academic publishing, what your TNF does or OUP does. But there it's very much the way the manuscript or content is taken up. It's very much dependent upon whatever author wants to write. So there will be not many instructions coming from or guidelines coming from the publisher to the author when it comes to academic or trade writing. Again, fiction is completely different. But here, these are mostly, when it comes to academic publishing, it's a macro study, I would say. It's very much narrow focused. You're on certain specific areas, topics, even geographical regions. It might center around any state, any country, or even a district or a town. So that's the kind of difference between these two. Whereas when it comes to textbooks, it's lots of instruction. I mean, syllabus are given, subtopics, topics, even when you come to know about certain one or two new topics. For example, AI is coming up. I mean, now it has into your ecosystem, but 3-4 years ago, we used to say if the book was on IT or computer science, we used to say that just put one chapter or certain small topics on AI into it, or any upcoming areas which might go beyond the syllabus guidelines or prescriptions.
So as a commissioning editor, what exactly then, how does your role play out? Like, like you mentioned with trade or, non-fiction, it's two ways, right? It's either, okay, authors or writers are pitching books, right? So they pitch their books to publishers. Publishers say, okay, this is a interesting book, has potential. So they pick up that book, they work with the author, the book is published. Or the other way around, where the publisher says, okay, here is a gap in the market, right? This is a topic that is not being covered in a book, I want to cover it. Then they find an author, the book is written, the book is published, right? Which are the two ways. But in say a textbook, obviously, because there is it's not coming author first, right? So there is a clear syllabus. So what exactly is the process, in the sense of, is it that the university then gives you a structure, and then how does your role play out in terms of getting that book written and out?
University doesn't I mean, instruct us, and we don't get in touch with the university, because in India we don't have any university press as such. I mean, any specific university publishing their own book, just like your OUP or your Cambridge or Princeton, they have. So whenever the syllabus comes out, we know that, I mean, when even starting out, or even if you are already there in textbook publishing for many years, if we decide that we need to come out with a say history book for Maharashtra board. So we get in touch with we first get to the syllabus, which is available publicly on internet, you know that. We get to see that, and then we decide about whom to approach for writing the book. So now, very interestingly, since you brought it out about Maharashtra board, uh, or faculty from Delhi University can very well write a book, I mean, specific to that syllabus. But what publishers, normally or usually do that they will try to find someone from Maharashtra, because there is a term which we can say is like a regional recognition. So we will first try to get an author from Bombay University, Pune University, or any university based in Maharashtra, and then approach few of them to write a book. So it all starts from there.
Okay, so then say, for example, say Taylor and Francis has its own textbook, right? Same, following the same example, which is Maharashtra Board BA1 History. Then does Oxford University Press have its own version? Pearson have
Yeah.
its own version? And then how do then colleges or institutions decide which version to go with?
How many publishers they will get into that specific book for history? I mean, let's continue with that. Depends upon our assessment of how big the market is going to be. First thing, right? If the market is very small and some publisher they have already got into it, again we will, evaluate the commercial viability, that whether it's, there is a point of going into that or not. But if the market is big enough, then obviously there will be, every major publisher, including the local ones. Now, which book will be successful depends upon, especially we're talking about textbooks, depends upon certain parameters like the authorship, how well the author is known across Maharashtra, across the state. Textbook, they are very price sensitive. So what's the price of the book, right? And thirdly, if you have gone through any of the syllabus, there are few titles are mentioned over there. So recommended textbooks and references. So in the recommended books list, whether it falls into the textbook category. So if it's there, what happens that even booksellers, they store it, looking into that syllabus. They go through that.
Right.
If they see that the book is mentioned there over on the syllabus, they assume, and rightly so, that students will come asking for this book.
Right.
So they store it. They keep
it. So it has automatically got credibility by being on the syllabus as
being on the syllabus. Yeah, but again, social sciences is different in the field. There are many titles. For example, if I may say, like Romila Thapar. I mean, for ancient Indian history, her book has, is here in Indian market and across the globe for many years. So you will see that even if that particular book is, there in the syllabus or not, the bookseller will have one or two copies with him. So it depends. But for a new book and extremely syllabus-oriented book, yes, this is the way what I told you. It does give credibility, and we fight for it to get the book into the syllabus as the first recommended text, not the second one or the third one. All fight is there for the first one.
It should be all on the top.
On the top.
Right. That's why then, like you said, distribution and sales becomes very important in terms of the success or failure of the book, because you could have a very, you could have a very well-written book following the syllabus with a very good author. But if you don't get that distribution thing cracked, then the book is not going to sell anything. If it's not in the bookstores, if it's not getting that demand, if it's not on the syllabus.
This hurdle has built it down. After your invasion of Amazon, I would say, because now they are, you can get your book or anything what you want in every nook and corner of the country. So you know that brick and mortar bookshops have closed down. Even the your when it comes to your university or college bookshop also, I mean, very few are surviving these days. And if
Yeah.
you visit any bookshop in other than metros, I would say college bookshop, mostly they would be selling your pins, registers, stationery
Stationery,
items
notebooks. Yeah.
for this reason, because it's not possible for them to give whatever discount Amazon is offering. And with such a small setup, it's really important. I mean, it's very critical for them to, I mean, get their economics right. If I mean, not to give the discounts away. If they give away 20%, what they are going to get, because they don't have that much volume.
Makes sense. So in institutions, do the teachers then individual teachers, because obviously students will look at the syllabus to choose books, right? But a lot of times, um, it's that students are given certain books, right? Where they are told, ki, okay, I am teaching this, this is the book to follow. Or like the school will have a mandated set of books for all the subjects together, right? So how does that work? Is it that the institutions are then choosing from the syllabus based on their own understanding what books to go for? Or is it that individual teachers are choosing? And then you have to kind of get on the radar of the individual teachers to make sure that they are choosing your book.
Again, there are two different kind of setups here in India in terms of your social sciences and management titles.
Hmm.
So when it comes to management institutions, usually top rung institution, what they do, that the same selection process, I mean, goes out. Books are selected, rather one book is selected, and that book is part of the package that students receive,
Yeah.
right? So what happens that if book A is selected, that book is bought from the publisher. Depending upon the quantity, depends upon your the enrollment size. It can be
Hmm.
100, 120, even 300, something like that. Even in the management, if you leave some top rank institutions, the book is recommended, but I mean, the student can go for any other title as well on the same topic. They may go because they are not enforced. There is no assured purchase from the publisher,
Right.
right? So B rank, C rank institutions, they recommend it. Everything happens the same way, but student can have their own book, or they, I mean, they can even decide not to have any book with
Hmm.
them. But there, at least the book is there, and mostly, even if student they don't buy the book, they follow that specific book from anywhere else. They manage to get it. When it comes to social sciences, it's completely different. First thing, there is no forced buying or no compulsory buying from the any institution or university. It's recommended. That's over. So students, I mean, you can see, or if you sometimes you get a chance, you'll see that student buying books from local publishers on the same topic
Hmm.
because they have normally used to pass the examination. And instead of what we have realized that many times a certain section of student, unfortunately, they constitute the larger chunk. They are more interested in just passing the examination, and the books from the local publishers, which are primarily in question answer format, that serves their purpose well, and they are cheaply
Hmm.
priced as well. So they go for that. And even for top 10, 15% for which we stand publisher fight it out, uh, it's not necessary that they will go for the books that was recommended in the syllabus. If it's ancient India, they can go for any book based on ancient India, because every publisher, I mean, they try or not try, but they publish their books or tailor their book or structure the book as per the syllabus.
Yeah.
So it's more or less similar. I mean, what we can differentiate from the other publisher by putting some additional pedagogical elements and your the way of presentation. The only way we can differentiate. Otherwise, the basic content, the coverage remains the same.
Hmm. So what is the number? Like in trade, for example, the big thing is, okay, if you sell 10,000 copies, which very, very, very rarely books do in India. But it's like if a book sells 10,000 copies, it's a bestseller, right? Or it's a successful book in that sense. So what is the number, what are the kind of sales numbers that textbooks get? And what counts as a successful book in academic publishing?
For textbook, the bestseller, I mean, the number can vary from 1 lakh copies to 2,000 copies. So it's, yeah,
Wow. Okay.
it's like that. Um, there are few books like on marketing management, your organizational behavior, which sells into lakhs, right? And there are other books also which are also best. We consider it bestsellers. For example, if 5,000 copies for an operation research book, research method, these kind of your, if 5,000 copies, that's a good number, considering the fact that unlike your academic titles, textbooks, they have a very long shelf life.
Yeah.
Right? One edition lasts for nearly 3 to 4 years, or sometimes even 5 years. After that, the book gets revised. So it gets a new lease of life for another 3, 4 years. The book gets into that cycle. It means that book is getting popular and accepted. So once it gets into your third or fourth edition, it means the book is selling more than 10,000 copies a year. I mean, it can be safely be assumed.
Right. So
So you
it's
can
also the
see
longevity. How many
longevity.
editions
Yes. How many
are people
editions?
asking for those revisions? Because yes, books, I agree, textbooks do have a long
Yeah.
shelf life. And also textbooks are something which people pass on a lot, right? Where it's like, people buy secondhand textbooks, or people
That's
just
our pain. That's the pain that, yeah, we always, I mean, have to, and we can't do anything about it.
yeah, like people buy secondhand, or people give their textbooks because it's like, okay, if I've studied and I've finished, what am I going to do with this book? Or they use it as a reference book for many years. So in that sense, they do stay for a very long time. Or people photocopy books as well. That is something.
Photocopying is not that much viable these days because
Okay.
even, I mean, the cost of photocopying has gone up, and even books are not that much after the usual online discount that we get. 600, 700 rupees, and the photocopying book is completely different. So if you have to get 1 or 2 chapters photocopied, that's fine. Otherwise, mostly I don't think that your textbooks getting photocopied, unless until these are the imported ones, which cost 1,000.
Possibly. That's true. So, Amit, what does a day in your life look like? Like a work day?
Workday in commissioning, our day starts with authors and ends with authors. So, I mean, uh, there are projects we are working on which are at various stages of completion, right? We just started out in midway, which is and few are there which are in advanced stages. Then also we have to look out for new content. So I mean, approaching new authors, cold calling. I mean, it's very safest thing to do, because and with advent of internet actually, or it has become very much easier these days. You have to just go to the websites, and all the details are provided. You just communicate, and then everything happens. Unlike older days when lots of traveling, I mean, commissioning people, they used to travel a lot.
Yeah.
Across India. Yeah. Otherwise, how would go to when going to get the authors? Because unlike your authors writing for trendy titles,
Yeah.
I mean, they were well known, mostly well known, and they knew that where to go. I mean, there are few specific publishers which used to publish them.
Yeah. And
Um,
there the authors come to the publishers. No? The publishers don't have to go
it
searching
happens,
as
Aishwarya, it
much.
happens both ways. Because, I mean, see, there is a limitation how much books a person can write.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, uh, barring few, I mean, more than 3 books, I mean, very few, I'm sure that you must have seen that writing more than 2, 3, 4 titles. So you have to look out for new authors, even for your trade publishing. So, and there are various sources to get that, and they get into touch with them, and they discuss the book, the topic,
Yeah.
and the same process continues.
Do you want to work in India's publishing and creative industries and be one of these cool book people that I interview in this podcast? Well, now you can. We at Bound have come up with a 3-month comprehensive online course that gives you the skills and helps you get jobs in your dream companies, whether they are book publishers, magazines, literary agents, digital publishing platforms, or any other content company. So, this course starts on 15 September. And essentially, in 100 live hours, we will be teaching you every single aspect of the publishing industry, and you will get to specialize in a particular field of your choice. You will learn from over 70 top experts from the industry and a lot of the book people themselves. So imagine you could be learning directly from Sayantan Ghosh, from Naveen Valsakumar, Chitranshu Tiwari, Radhika Timbadia, Disha Nayak, and many more experts. In addition to this, you can test your newfound skills in a capstone simulation that we'll be holding at the end of the course. And we will be giving you the chance to actually interview with the top companies in India. So, we are hosting a 2-week recruitment drive, and in the drive, you will get to interview with companies like Notion Press, Cactus Communications, Rupa Publications, Little Black Book, and we have over 17 recruitment partners already signed up with us to give you jobs. And I haven't even mentioned the best part yet. We'll only be conducting classes on weekday evenings and on weekends, mornings, so that you can make sure that you can continue your studies, you can keep your full time job, you can keep your weekend plans while you're doing this course as well. And don't worry, we've also accounted for Diwali and all of the festivals that will come up during those 3 months between September and December. Obviously, you will see me there as one of the core instructors. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to us at Bound India on all social media platforms. You will find the details in the description below. And I really hope that you will take this opportunity and use it to really build your career in the publishing industry and in the creative industries. Apply now. So you said something very interesting earlier, in terms of how publishers choose which book to, like, which textbook to even create based on what are the competitors, what is the market viability. So how exactly is that choice made? Like, we use this hypothetical example of BA history year 1, but say now you don't have that specific direction, and if you now have to do your next textbook, how do you kind of figure out what is the best next textbook to kind of invest that time and money and effort in creating?
Based on our interaction with various faculty members. I mean, if you just removing your syllabus part out of the discussion, that how we and we do that because there are many new upcoming topics as well, right? So I mean, it's because when any topic becomes popular or it's in the syllabus for many years, you will find at least 50 titles, 50 textbook on that topic, minimum in India. So it becomes a highly competitive market. And there is way to differentiate and I mean, get into that crowd and how to get yourself identified. That we discussed. But it's really important for any publisher that to keep tab on the new upcoming areas. And that's the only way.
What is the title you are working on right now?
I'm into your academic publishing. So the area that I am looking into is psychology, education, your geography. So lots of scope, environment, sustainability.
And what kind of books do you personally like focusing on? Like, what subjects do you personally feel strongly about, or you as a person feel kind of more invested in?
Psychology and education, personally. Yeah. So these are really important. I mean, psychology has over the years become very important for all of us in various format, whether it's serious academic book or you're for somebody, a layman, a general reader, especially after all the discussions on mental health going on. So this is really important. And secondly, education, because Yes, that's the most important thing for all of us. And if I can say so, it's when it comes to your academic environment, it's one of the most neglected departments, I would say. Psychology is still, I mean, when it comes to social sciences, psychology is still the on the top. I mean, highly regarded. You meet the faculty, you'll come to know they're all top notches across the country, more or less.
Yeah.
But education is just the opposite.
Mm.
I mean, barring your premier institutions, I'm not saying anything about them, like your Azim Premji or artists. Not about. I'm not. My comment is not for those kind of institutions. It's more for your like a B.Ed college in say UP, Punjab, even Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, wherever.
Mm. I don't know much about the B.Ed thing, but I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Like it's at least psychology, because I have an interest. I've not studied it, but I am interested. I do know I have a lot of friends who have studied psychology, and I have seen that the quality of kind of the educational material that is available is really good and really strong when it comes to psychology. For sure.
Exactly. And also in terms of just economics, I can say so based on my experience that student to purchase ratio when it
Hmm.
comes to social sciences, psychology has got the best one, best ratio. They actually buy the books and they read books.
Yeah, makes sense. So, we discussed all these things about in like how people say resell books, or use old books or share books, or now there's also digitization, right? So people usually create like online versions of the books which are then passed around for free, whatever. So like whatever versions of, I guess, piracy or whatever we want to call it, which is not essentially leading to book sales, but the book is being used. What is your just opinion about this overall, and is there something that publishers are doing or try to do to overcome that, or are they just like, this is a lost cause, this is just gonna happen, we gotta cut all losses?
Uh, Two things here. First thing, digitalization of your what is happening of your content. So we are publishers are not hampered with that,
Hmm.
right? Because the industry which is being affected by all the digital processes and conversions are the your paper industry and printing industry,
Right.
right? So I mean, those I mean that's a completely different entity.
Right, because you can still sell ebook versions of textbooks, like e-textbooks.
Exactly. I mean, even before that, before the advent of your ebooks, what publishers used to do, I mean, our work stopped at your in a sense
Hmm.
to after your creating your print files. After that, it went to printing press,
Right.
right? So that's a completely different industry. Secondly, paper and other thing was negotiated by the publisher, of course, but again, that is a
Hmm.
different industry. So no, we are not getting into those, right? And at the same time, uh, we can see so it's helping us out in reducing the cost also because warehousing
Yeah.
cost has, I mean, it has gone down.
Yeah, if you are not spending on paper and printing, then
Yeah.
basically you can also price lower, because then your cost is the editorial and basically design cost of putting that book together in that.
See, pricing, if you look at your price difference between your digital copy and print copy, it's not that much.
Okay.
It's almost identical. And when it comes to academic title, it's
Mhm.
almost same. It's not almost, but it's exactly the same. So we are not affected by that. Of course, yes, your piracy. I mean, again, before the digital thing happened, you know that at red lights, traffic signals, I mean, lots of your, so many vendors selling out the pirated copies. And almost 10, 15 years ago, if I'm correct, I mean, few publishers, they went to make a formal complaint to, I mean, police department, but nothing happened. I mean, after lots of fight, they just gave up that this is not going to happen. I mean, this is not going to change.
Yeah, because it's been
So
going on for so long as well.
for so long, and it's very difficult for the administration to understand. I mean, even today, that what piracy actually is. Your movie industry piracy happening over there, that has
Yeah.
they have understood it to an extent, but when it comes to books or content, still I think we have long way to go.
Okay.
And it's much more easier for books to pirate because file size is very small. I mean, this is one of the things. It's very easy to I mean, make it available everywhere.
Hmm.
It's
That is true.
convenience also. It's very easy for books to get pirated
Yeah.
digitally also, unlike movies, which minimum 600 MB is minimum requirement, which was used to be. So this that
Yeah.
required some space.
That's true. Books are very easy. But
Very easy.
also, there is this other argument, I just like this whole ethical argument about piracy, right? One is obviously, when it comes to textbooks, what that means for sales numbers, right? But when it comes to, say, like academic papers or, these research journals, like you have JSTOR and these platforms where research journals are available for kind of students to access. Usually, these are so, high priced, or they are inaccessible, and so there is a lot of this argument when it comes to educational, like academic material, right? Which is that because there are these platforms where you can get like research materials, open source, like research papers or open source books available that people can kind of download and access, so that they don't have to sort of keep buying books and sort of spend that much money on education. So as a, not as Taylor and Francis, but as Amit, what is your opinion on just like the whole piracy debate in terms of, one, obviously key publishers should not lose money, but also second, how can then like research materials, academic things be more accessible to students who want to do that effort to study, and who want to kind of gain that knowledge or have that research material for their research.
See, for journals, universities mostly they subscribe to that, and the economics of the overall business, because the size of readership is so small, that's the primary reason it becomes expensive. But again, publishers market it as an institutional product, not an individual product.
Mm.
Right? A journal is a very micro study of any specific topic. So there will be obviously very limited readership. With all the kind of investment that has gone into it, doesn't justify to price that even 5-10 pages long your content to be available for 10 rupees or 50 rupees or even 100 rupees. Secondly, distribution is a very difficult part. Even today, even for the physical book, even for this. How to reach out to your audience? There might be 1 million reader for any specific, say, topic A. But in case that 100 million or even 1 million, they are willing to buy, then the cost can be reduced. But this is not the case because of the way these studies are focused, that there are very few takers. So that's why it's always sold as bundle, as package to institutions from where the students, they can always access it.
Right.
Every major university has access to your journals, what you mentioned, and access is given to their every student.
Right. But I just find that whole thing very interesting. For example, me, right? So when I was doing my undergrad, like my bachelor's, I had access to JSTOR because my
Yeah,
institution had
got it.
this with subscription to JSTOR. So I could access research articles on JSTOR for social studies, humanities, social sciences studying, right? The moment I graduate, I lose access. So now I cannot go back. So it's that hustle, right? Where it's like, while I'm a student and I have official access, I need to download everything that I can download and keep, because the moment I am officially not a student, I've lost access. Now, if after that degree, right, if I want to do any research, or if I want to do additional research based on research I did in when I was studying, I can't do that because I have lost access. because of
Got it.
the university affiliation.
Yeah.
Then say I go somewhere else, I go to another institution to do a master's. Now that institution has a different subscription that
Subscription.
is
Yeah.
not JSTOR based on whatever that institution wants. So those nuances I think are very interesting, because then it is like, based on your what institution you end up going to, there is also such a win and lose, because each institution will have a different way of how they are giving access to students. Like in some cases it will be like, okay, full and like sort of complete
Access.
access,
Yeah.
right? Complete access, how much ever you want to download. In some cases, based on how many students they are trying to, it'll be like, okay, you can download up to 3 articles, and then after that there is some sort of like stop, like there is a limit in terms of what kind of access is available. So those variations, I think what you're saying is right, but because of that model, those variations are so different, and like differ so much based on like student to student to student, that access becomes such a problem, because there's no blanket statement to be like students have this much access or students don't have this much access, which is why I also feel like students end up going and just finding other ways to get access, which is more guaranteed in a way and not based on dependent on like times and institution affiliations and these kinds of things. That's
See,
just
I would say that look at the older days when
mm,
institutions they subscribe to any journal, they used to get the print copies, and same goes for books also, right? It was the same story. If the book was textbook, they bought it in multiple numbers for your research based or your academic kind of books or reference books, 1 or 2 copies usually for every across every institution across India. Now, for textbooks, for example, institution bought 20 copies. So over the period of time, after a year, there was a repeat purchase because the book used to get, because it used to travel in so many hands
mm,
that the book used to get destroyed,
yeah.
right? So they were repeat purchase. So publisher used to survive because for the, I mean, apart from the multiple editions, textbook getting into multiple editions, this was also happening.
Yeah.
But now with the digital advent, this has stopped, right? Once it is there forever. So we need to survive also. I mean, and I must put it because you are kind of uh, giving a this conversation is for your academic publishing. So academic publishing is anyway in India is on a very shaky ground, right? Because of the funds crunches and even the way you said, that the way the material is available online. So students like you, I'm sure you are smart enough to get the material, I mean, access to the material from here or there or elsewhere, right? But yes, for us to commercially survive, it's really important that that whatever valuable contents that we collate and produce, create and produce, those are the, I mean, remain commercially profitable to us to survive. And it's not only about the publisher, it's equally important about the content creators, the authors. Otherwise, what's there for you or as an author to write?
Hmm.
If your material becomes available everywhere, you'll be happy. I've seen that from my experience. I can tell you that you will be happy for a while that, okay, my book or my journal is in every hands, in the not hands, but now in every laptop. But after 6 months or 7 months, a year or 2 years, you are going to write to the publisher that my book is being read by everyone and I haven't got a single paisa royalty.
Right. Right.
So
It's
yes,
also the
every
compensation for the author in terms
for
of
author also.
yeah.
Though academic authors, I do agree that they don't write for money.
Hmm.
The purpose of writing, unlike your fiction and others, it's more more of an academic work for them. But again, it's a kind of bonus which makes them happy, and it's not about money, but more money they get, it's primarily signifies that your book is being bought and read.
Right.
So it's encouragement for them.
Yeah. No, I agree with you completely about academic publishers needing to survive. I just wanted to have that discussion. I also have one more question because you brought up authors. So this is just like personal curiosity. So I see a lot of, researchers who think about turning their research into books, right? Now, this is not textbooks, but academic
Yeah.
publishing versus trade publishing, nonfiction. So when they are thinking of, okay, I have done this research, I have this knowledge, I want to turn it into a book. This becomes a very interesting question for them, which is like, should they go for academic publishing and write in a more academic book style, which is for their peers, like other people who will have that same level of knowledge, domain knowledge? Or should they go, trade nonfiction and write a book which is giving that same research but making it accessible to just general public, right? Something that everyone can understand, and write a trade book. So for that kind of a question, which is, if someone comes and asks you, okay, I have this research, now should I write a nonfiction trade book, should I write an academic book, what would your response be, I guess?
It depends upon the content. I mean, what the person has written. And I'm sure that if the person, I mean, he or she is thinking about getting their research work published, they are younger ones, right? So of course, it will be very difficult for them to understand whether my book or research paper, if converted into your book, is going to be more of an academic in nature, or it has got some your uh, strength to go into the trade market. Publishers will tell them. I mean that it's completely this decision rests with the publisher, that whether they
Right.
would like to consider it as a trade or an academic or reference work.
Where do you see the future? Because you're talking about how right now academic publishing is a little bit on shaky grounds. Where do you see academic publishing in India being in, say, the next 5 years, in
See, I,
2020?
I said shaky grounds because currently the funding crunch in because of all that, because everywhere academic publishing depends upon or thrives on your government funding,
Hmm.
and not only the your publishing but your research work also, and publishing comes out of that, right? So I mean once that changes, I mean it's things are going to improve. So it's not like that it's going to close down. I mean content is going to be generated, research is going to happen, and all those research, they are going to be published and going to be read. I mean, the format has changed only these days. And again, if I may say so, books or physical books, they very much still exist, and they will
Yeah.
exist, right? And
Do you see any variations in it in the future based on whatever is happening? For example, now we have a lot of ebooks, right? Like digital versions of textbooks. Do you see, say, research being the research output instead of a book being a podcast? Or do you see, AI impacting the entire academic publishing process in any way?
see, first thing, podcast is, it's not reading, right?
Hmm.
There are for your language skills. We all know that: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So podcast is not reading, first thing,
Yeah.
right? Reading is a completely different experience. And I don't believe in listening to books at all. It
Okay.
doesn't feel like book. Maybe new generation, it might be different for them. But I mean, there's nothing new to tell me that when you're reading a book, you are just reading the book. But when you're listening to something, we are doing everything apart from listening. It happens. I have seen that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not reading. It's very difficult for me. I'm not a technical person. So, I mean, for the next 10, 15 years, I think the research AI, how much they are going to get into that, or if they are going to write a book themselves, that I don't know. I mean,
There
it's,
have been a couple of trade books written by AI that have
yeah,
started getting published.
yeah, things are changing. It will happen. I mean, it's very difficult to predict the future for me, that how it's going to change.
Okay.
But 10, 15 years, I think it's going to, I mean, human mind, I mean, if it can be replicated in that, with that, in that a precise manner, that they can think like us, then again, it's like I think we need to find reasons for us to survive, that whether we should live or not, if everything is done by them.
Yeah,
It's
that's
more,
true.
it will more be movie-like situation.
Okay, what is, according to you, the toughest part of academic publishing, and what do you enjoy the most about your role or what you do?
After you spend a substantial number of, time in this industry, there is nothing as very tough or toughest part. I mean, right from your, see, it's again, yeah, one thing. It's not for me, but writing a book is a very labor-intensive work from the author's perspective,
Hmm.
right? So, in few instances, we do have to follow up with them a lot. Not because they're willing to write, but they're obviously too busy with their own your
Yeah.
teaching assignments and other things. So the weight, again, it's not very tough, I would say, because we are not dealing with or not working on just one or two proposals. So there are hundreds in the pipeline. So that's one of the things that many times, waiting for the authors or waiting to get the manuscript completed. But again, it's not very tough. It happened earlier also. It's happening now also, because humans are doing it anyway.
Yeah.
So nothing as such.
And
And
your
interesting
favorite?
part, yes, interesting part is, like I told you, I mean, in that in context of especially when I was working with textbooks, that discussing the new upcoming topics, new areas which might, get into the syllabus in future. Because obviously, at that point of time, you can't bring out a textbook, because and then again, when it comes into textbook profile, then it has to get certain number of minimum sales number attached to it. But it's an upcoming topic. So yes, obviously, then we start discussing or getting a reference or academic book on that topic, so that gradually 3, 4, 5 years down the line, if something comes up, then that can be transformed, or a new book can be written on that topic. So that's the most interesting part.
Nice. I'm just going to do a quick rapid fire round. So I have 4, 5 questions for you, which if you can just answer quickly, that would be great.
I
Okay.
will try.
So, okay. My first question is, what is your favorite title that you have commissioned so far?
Hmm.
Rapid,
It can't
rapid.
be rapid fire. Out of more than 300 titles, it's
The first one that comes to mind is the answer.
the first one will be the first book that I commissioned.
Okay.
That Introduction to Psychology. It was
Okay.
by Professor Amit Abraham at McGraw-Hill. So
Okay.
obviously that remains a special one. That will always remain a special one for me.
Nice. Okay.
So it was like when I held the book, it was like a dream. Yeah, we always say it's my book. Apart from the author, we are the second owners of any book that we
Yeah,
publish.
definitely. It's like and it's the first one as well. So
First
it has
one,
a very
yeah,
emotional
yeah,
connect.
very emotional one. I still have 5 copies of the book. It's nowhere in the
Yeah.
market.
Next is, what do you read for fun?
I read serious non-fictions. I don't read fictions. Though
Okay.
many of my colleagues and friends, they from publishing only. They told me, suggested that you should read at least one fiction, and they recommended God of Small Things.
Hmm.
I'm still held to third page, I think, for the last 6 months. So primarily history and politics.
Okay.
I like a lot.
What is a non-fiction book you would recommend to people?
1984 and this one,
Animal Farm.
always.
If not publishing, what would be an alternate career for you?
I do keep thinking about it, because I came into publishing very much accidentally. So I don't know that what I would have been doing. So don't know.
What would be
Once
a
I
dream job?
um, something to do with your cinematography.
Oh, nice. Would you ever write a book?
No.
Why not?
It takes special skill. Academic work, academic writing is different, which is manageable, but I'm not trained in that way. So even if topics do keep coming, because I travel a lot, uh, I find it difficult to put those things into words. So many of my friends, they have asked me to, but it's not easy. It's a very kind, I mean, specific
Yeah.
skill that comes to you. I mean, I develop it. I'm not aware of that. I haven't tried developing it, but maybe travelogue if it happens.
Okay, nice. Travelogue would be interesting. Okay, the last question I have is, what is one thing you want people to know about academic publishing?
There's so many things, Aishwarya. It's a very vast field. And in academic publishing, I mean, when it comes to the most interesting part, you asked me earlier also,
Hmm.
is that there is uh, no dearth of topics where you can't work. You just can think of, dream of any topic under the sun, and you can find an author and start working on it. So it's
Very
a
true.
very big and vast playing field, and there is always somebody waiting to be asked to write something. You have to approach them.
That's a really nice message. I think that leaves very positive and hopeful thing as well for people who might be interested in, writing for academic
Exactly.
publishing or even working in academic publishing. Thank you so much, Amit, for coming on the Book People and talking to me about textbooks and academic publishing and everything that's happening in India.
My
It was
pleasure,
great.
Aishwarya. Thank you so much.
That marks the end of another episode of The Book People. Tune in every Thursday for some breakdowns, some truth bombs, and some insightful and real conversations with industry experts about all things books. This podcast is created by Bound. We work with writers and brands to create content across formats, whether it's books, podcasts, newsletters, or screenplays. So get in touch to see how we can help you grow through stories. And follow us at Bound India on all social media platforms. I'm your host, Aishwarya Zawargekar. You can follow me on LinkedIn, where I share many more insights about books and content. Or you can get in touch with me at aishwarya@boundindia.com if you have any suggestions on topics I should cover, or if you want to book any of my services or consultation calls. Until then, keep writing.